Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship.
Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Wednesday, how about it? Wednesday, May 27. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, TawkrTV. Good to see you this Wednesday morning. Thank you for joining us, and get ready to join the conversation by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. President Obama on his way to Miami today. He'll do a couple of fundraisers for the Democratic National Committee. And while he's down there, he'll be talking about immigration after yesterday's court ruling against one of his executive orders. He'll also be talking about the economy. He's in Miami. You know, it's only less than an hour flight from Miami to Havana, but nobody expects him to take a little hop down to Cuba. Not today, at any rate. Here in Washington, a lot of excitement over the fact that the authority for NSA to check your phone calls and mine, that authority under the Patriot Act expires this Sunday at midnight. So the Senate is reconvening at 4 o'clock on Sunday, giving themselves 8 hours to fix it. I hope they fail, frankly, because I agree with Rand Paul that the NSA has no business spying on your phone calls and mine. Let them spy on people they suspect of terrorists and leave all the rest of us alone. Bernie Sanders is in big rally up in Burlington, Vermont yesterday. Bernie Sanders looking good, and he makes it clear, he says, he's not running against Hillary Clinton. He's running against Wall Street. He's running against the oligarchy. He is running for middle-class Americans. Go, Bernie, go. And now we have to watch Rick Santorum and George Pataki jump in. Why? They know they're not going to win. Don't they have something better to do? Get a job. Hey, thanks for joining us today, and look forward to hearing from you. Good to have you with us on Wednesday, May 27.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
All personnel aware of the proper protection equipment. This includes all personnel identified as staff, students, role players, VIPs, and support staff. Face, eyes, throat, and drawing protection is mandatory and should be worn at all times by personnel directly involved in or near the scenario. Always check your mask prior to use to ensure there are no cracks and the mask is in safe working condition.
Should I put the water in there now?
Yeah, go ahead. So it's like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Pull them out. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy.
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus.
Okay.
And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place.
Okay.
So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
Okay. And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else. That we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, we knew professional football was crooked. Now, professional soccer. Man, sports is worse than politics. Hello, everybody. What do you say? Here we go. Wednesday, May 27. How about it? So good to see you today. Thank you for climbing on board the bus here, the Bill Press bus, as we head out from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and head out to your house, your office, your car, wherever you happen to be, listening on the radio, on your local progressive talk radio station. We are there with you, or maybe you're listening on one of the great radio apps in Radio Land, a TuneIn app. It's free. Download it, or iHeartRadio. You can join us there as well and hook up to one of our great local affiliates. Good to be with you on your morning radio program, and also good to be with you on Free Speech TV nationwide. If you've got a satellite dish, you know that we are there with you on DirecTV and the Dish Network, and worldwide with you on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV. How about it? Good to see you on this Wednesday. Hope you are ready to. There's a lot to talk about today. A lot going on. The news about FIFA, the Soccer Federation, is just news that broke overnight. We'll bring you up to date on that and all the rest, including Bernie Sanders jumping in officially yesterday up in Burlington, Vermont. That's why we have the whole team here this morning with Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy leading things up.
We almost didn't come in. But because of all the news.
That's right.
We figured
so much news.
Yeah. That was just going to be sort of half of the crew here today. But
That's right.
So much news broke overnight. Everybody showed up,
hands on
including Jamie Benson on the phones, ready for your calls. Don't forget, you join the conversation by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. You jump in and be part of our town hall by giving us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. And rounding out the team, Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, there with the lights and the cameras on and hard at work. Yes, Bernie, he told us a month or so ago he was going to run for president. Yesterday, he had the traditional, if you will, big rally up in his hometown of Burlington, Vermont, where he was once the mayor. A beautiful setting alongside of whatever lake that is up there. Sailboats, it's sort of like in back of him. He's standing up there like he owned the world. And he said the magic words.
Today, here in our small state, a state that has led this nation in so many ways, I am proud to announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America.
All right, Bernie, indeed. Running, he said yesterday, not against Hillary Clinton. He's running against Wall Street. He's running against the oligarchy, and he said what we need in this country is nothing short of a political revolution.
Today, with your support and the support of millions of people throughout our country, we begin a political revolution to transform our country economically, politically, socially, and environmentally.
He is on fire. People in the crowd holding signs that said, "Feel the burn." Yeah, I like that.
By the way, Bill, that was very picturesque Lake Champlain.
Is that what it was?
Yes, indeed, with the beautiful Adirondacks etched out in the background behind the lake.
Thank you, Bernie.
Very picturesque place to make an announcement.
Thank you, Bernie. Yeah,
you got it,
as
Bill.
you know. Good friend of this program, and when he becomes president of the United States, I'll be able to say I was his intern at one time. When he was in the Senate, I was his intern.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
But he is definitely going to shake up the race and to shape up the race in terms of the issues you and I care about. Delighted that he is running. So we got a lot going on. David Jackson covers the White House for USA Today. He'll be joining us a little bit later in this hour. Rebecca Sinderbrand will be here from the Washington Post and a couple of other important guests. And yes, indeed, the deadline for NSA spying on your phone and mine expires midnight on Sunday. What are they going to do about it? What should they do about it? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. So it's that time of year where summer break is rapidly approaching for students all across the country, which means senior prank season is fully underway.
Oh, I thought you meant senior prom season.
No, senior prank season, where seniors are pulling pranks in their schools. So we go just a little bit north to Morganza, Maryland, where several high school students have been charged with burglary because they broke into their school and released about 72,000 ladybugs inside of the school. They broke into the school at about 3 o'clock in the morning and released all of these bugs all throughout the school. So when students showed up, of course, all the ladybugs are in the school. 4 juvenile male suspects have been arrested and charged with fourth-degree burglary, property destruction, under $1,000, and disruption of school activities. They say there's still 3 other suspects out there.
Whoa.
Be on the lookout.
It's a pretty nice class when it's ladybugs. It's not that bad.
No, but think of the poor bugs.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
That's true.
I mean,
very true.
I'm hardly worried about the school and how they're going to recover from this. But they're going to have to fumigate and kill all those ladybugs.
Oh, they're
stepping on all the ladybugs. When people showed up. It's a disaster.
No, I mean you can. I don't know why. I forget now why ladybugs are like important, but you can buy, and that's what these kids did. They bought. 72,000 ladybugs, and they were shipped to them, and then they.
But they're great for farms and for crops and things like that. They eat aphids.
Right. Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought in nurseries they get them, and they can do. So that's a beneficial purpose. This was just a prank.
Yeah.
Poor bugs.
Poor bugs. 70. We go to Denver, Colorado, where Rosenberg's Bagels and Delicatessen has been serving wonderful smoked salmon for many, many years. But, of course, this being Denver, they are now trying a new recipe for their smoked salmon. Any guesses where we're going with this?
I know where you're going.
The salmon smokes before you cook it.
Well, they're smoking salmon with marijuana smoke now. That does not get you high. We should point that out. But it does have the flavor of marijuana smoke, and they add some smoke in with the other things they're smoking their fish with. So if you want to get your marijuana-scented smoked salmon, all you need to do is go
grass-smoked salmon.
Rosenberg. Yeah, that's where to get it. Yeah. And Snoop Dogg, the rapper, has turned over a new leaf, apparently. He is famous for many, many hits, and he has not had the most progressive attitude towards women in the past, calling them things like bitches and hoes. He gave an interview to Sky News, and he said, "No more! I will never call a woman those names ever again." He's 43 years old, and he says that he's seen the error of his ways. He says times have changed. His attitude has changed. And he sees women as beautiful people, not as objects.
Maybe he should talk to some of his fellow rappers, too.
Yeah, right, exactly. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is the end of the sexist rapper, but
I doubt it.
Snoop Dogg is being vocal about it.
All right. Pardon me. Yes, indeed. The big issue would be in front of the Congress. President Obama talked about it yesterday, goading the Senate to get on the stick and to act by midnight Sunday, because at midnight Sunday is when the authority for the NSA remember what we learned about it from Edward Snowden? And the NSA's bulk collection of phone data, meaning again that they know every call you make, every call I make. They may not be listening in on that call, but they know when the call is made, how long it lasts, where it originates, who we're calling, what it's about. They at least know that. And they collect all that data, and they store all that data on every single one of us, as you know, again, even though we have nothing to do with terrorists and wouldn't think about having anything to do with terrorists or terrorism. But that's the bulk data collection program, which President Obama defends. It is being operated under Section 215 of the Patriot Act, passed, of course, in the wake by a knee-jerk Congress in the wake of September 11. And it expires this Sunday. Expires, actually, 12:01 a.m. Monday morning, June 1, but basically Sunday at midnight. There are three ways to handle this that are being considered by the Congress. One is to just keep the program going, because it's great to spy on every American. And NSA ought to be doing it. That's what Mitch McConnell wants. The other extreme would be end it. Just kill it, because it's a gross invasion of our privacy. NSA's got no right to spy on us unless they suspect us of terrorism and have good reason to. And that's what Rand Paul is saying. No, the program is wrong. Violation of the Fourth Amendment. Kill it. Then there's a middle path, which Senator Patrick Leahy has taken the lead in, President Obama supports, which says, well, it's important that we keep this bulk collection of all this mass phone data, but the phone companies should keep it, and then if NSA does suspect us, they can go to the phone companies and get that information. Again, the Senate, or the House rather, has passed this middle path, the so-called USA Freedom Act. The House has passed it, but the Senate, this is sort of a reverse of the way things have been happening lately, where the Senate has been the one passing the legislation and the House just holding things up and not even calling things for a vote, like minimum wage and like immigration reform, where the Senate has both acted and the House didn't. In this case, the House took the initiative. They have passed this middle path, and the Senate refused to do so, and they went home without doing so. And so they're coming back Sunday at 4 o'clock with 8 hours to fix it, 8 hours to decide they're going to on what they're going to do. Yesterday, well, first of all, let's go back to these two sides. As far as Mitch McConnell goes, that ain't going to happen. Nobody's going to say he felt. I mean, he's the leader of the Senate, and he's like, I think it was 14 or 15 votes short on just letting NSA continue to do whatever the hell they wanted. So it really comes down to Rand Paul or President Obama. Rand Paul or Senator Patrick Leahy. And Rand Paul, May 20, here he is on the floor of the Senate, making it very, very clear that we got to make a choice here, and we shouldn't have to choose between our privacy and our safety.
We have to decide as a country whether we value our Bill of Rights, whether we value our privacy, or whether we're willing to give that up to feel safer.
Right. Are we willing? That's the question. I ask you that question. Willing to sacrifice your privacy in order to feel safer? And Rand Paul says the people who are saying, without this, we're going to be at risk of another terrorist attack, are just trying to scare us to death.
There comes a time in the history of nations when fear and complacency allow power to accumulate and liberty and privacy to suffer. That time is now, and I will not let the Patriot Act, the most unpatriotic of acts, go unchallenged.
Remember, it was Senator Russ Feingold, the only one in the Senate back then who voted against the Patriot Act. Rand Paul calling it the most unpatriotic of acts. And Rand Paul said it is in direct violation of the Fourth Amendment.
The bulk collection of all Americans' phone records all of the time is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment.
And now, yesterday at the briefing, Josh Earnest was asked about that at a White House briefing, and Josh Earnest said, no. We need this program. Yeah, we'll have the phone companies keep the records, but we need this program. Without this program, he says, we will be unsafe. We will be at risk of another terrorist attack. We will basically be letting down our guard, and anything could happen. Do you buy that? 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. I don't. I think we got to choose here. I think that there's no reason. And remember, let me throw a couple of other things in here. The President Obama, after the Snowden revelations, appointed his own commission to look into what NSA was doing and to make some recommendations. The president's own commission said that, and this was reported about a year ago, that of all these years of collecting all this data, it has not led to one single discovery of any terrorist activity from your phone calls or mine. Not one. So totally worthless, ineffective program. Number one. Number two was about 3 weeks ago, a federal court in New York found this whole program to be illegal, said it was against the Constitution. So I don't think there's any reason to continue at all. Look, if the NSA suspects somebody and or the FBI, the CIA, they go to the NSA and they said, we think this is a guy that he's in connection with some terrorist group, they can go to the FISA court, they can get a search warrant, and they can listen in on all that person's calls. There is no reason for them to listen in yours and mine without suspicion, without proper cause, and without a search warrant. I think Rand Paul is right. This is an important moment for this country. We're either going to assert our right of privacy and our freedom under the Fourth Amendment, or we're going to surrender it because we're afraid there may be another terrorist attack someday. 866-55-PRESS, which is the way to go here. On the NSA phone collection program, let it continue or kill it. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Silicon Valley's Santa Clara County is often portrayed as a role model for the rest of the country. The county has some of the highest salaries and most expensive real estate in America, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of tech companies such as Google, Yahoo, Intel, Adobe, and of course Apple, the nation's wealthiest and most profitable company. But Santa Clara County also has a more unseemly distinction. I'm standing near downtown San Jose, inside what is by some accounts the largest homeless encampment in America. The Jungle, as it's known, occupies a 65-acre stretch of creek where about 300 people live in makeshift structures. It's less of a homeless encampment than a full-blown shantytown.
This being the largest homeless encampment in the United States, and with us having Silicon Valley with Steve Jobs and all this cash, we're not supposed to have this kind of homeless problem. You know what I mean?
I done been shot with a pellet gun like 4 times, attacked with baseball bats, my house set on fire.
This is like hell on earth. I mean, this is like something you will not see. You have to see to believe, actually. It's like fourth world conditions.
Hi, have you ever heard of a place called the Jungle?
Sorry?
A place called the Jungle, have you heard of it?
We're not making enough money really for conventional homes or housing, and we make too much money for subsidized homes. So we're kind of, floating between the oil and the water.
We told the landlady here if it would be possible to continue staying here. She said, no, you got to go. I already rented it out. We went and loaded things into a storage facility, and it's still there. And all the campgrounds and things that we saw were too far out of the city, like KOAs and that sort of thing. So what we decided to do was to move into the Jungle. So that's what we did.
A few days ago, a woman named Lydia Hernandez was robbed inside of her tent. When she refused to hand over the money, the robbers slit her throat. When she still fought back, they bashed her head with an axe. She died a few hours later. Residents say that the police never come into the Jungle, so they have to fend for themselves.
There's no law down there except our own, right? There's no law, so we could smoke dope all day in the open. The dope dealers ain't scared because they're secure.
We go to the Fairmont Hotel and have a brunch or do a philanthropy. That's not going to cut it. We need billions of dollars to go into the inner cities and go into the Jungle. Silicon Valley, the Bay Area is known for its innovation, its progressive thinking. It's one of the most progressive pockets in the United States, if not the world, and certainly one of the wealthiest. If we can't do it here, it won't happen anywhere. It's got to happen here.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour now here. We're talking about the big scare tactics we're hearing from the White House. If we don't let NSA continue to monitor every one of our phone calls, we're going to be in trouble again. The terrorists are going to win. Do you buy it? It's an important time, and it's an important decision, and I think we got to take sides on this. I don't buy that. I just think they're trying to scare us to death. It is very Nixonian, if you ask me. It's certainly very Bushian, because this is the very stuff that we heard about George Bush and Dick Cheney in the first place, right after 9/11. Jesse's calling from Miami, Florida. Jesse, what do you say?
Hey, hi, Bill. Where's your Castro beard?
I don't have one, man, but
that's why they want to spy on us.
Because I was in Cuba, so they want to listen into my phone calls.
This is all your
right?
fault, Bill.
Yep. Hey, but I think they're more worried about us starting the revolution. They know that they could get the terrorists through the straight-up laws.
Right.
So, I think they're more worried about American Spring, something like that.
Well, the American Spring. I'd like to see the American Spring. Maybe Bernie Sanders could start the American Spring. But you're right, Jesse. You make an important point. I think it's important to recognize that if NSA doesn't have this bulk data collection program, they still have all the authority through the FISA court to go after anybody they have any suspicion of having anything to do with terrorism. This does not stop the war against terrorism if those things still exist. We got more calls coming up here. Take a quick break. We'll be back with your calls.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, that guy Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, and just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I can just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? blood and the gore. The waters rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earthalluia.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Yes, indeed. The showdown this Sunday. When you look at, first of all, when you look at the Senate and at the Congress, both houses, and how long it takes them to do anything, the idea that they're going to be able to fix this in 8 hours is sort of a joke, right? But if the whole program expires, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best thing that could happen. And I don't buy the scare tactics that we're hearing out of the White House. Again, not that will prevent NSA from pursuing people who really do have a connection with terrorists or they suspect of having a connection with terrorism. But we're talking about the massive data collection of every single phone call made by every single person in this country. The White House says without doing that, we are going to be vulnerable. We'll be at risk of terrorism. That's the scare tactics Rand Paul's been talking about. And by the way, unusual for a Republican to hear a Republican talk like this. But he repeated it again last night. He was on with Jon Stewart.
Right now they're using scare tactics against me. They want me to back down because if anything happens, if anyone dies for any reason in the whole world, right, I'm now responsible for it. It's like 14 people died last night from murder in Baltimore. Is the police chief responsible for that? Maybe the people who are doing the killing are responsible, and the rest of us need to protect security, but also need to realize what we're fighting against. If we're fighting this war against terrorism, we're fighting to defend our freedoms. And if we give up who we are in the process, I'm worried, will the battle have been worth it?
Nice to have somebody stand up and defend our freedoms and defend the right of privacy, and not just bend over and say anything goes to fight terrorism. Anything goes. We'll surrender everything in order to get those terrorists. We don't have to, and we should not.
It is interesting that, again, it's Rand Paul standing up for us.
Yeah.
You got to give credit to Rand Paul. I'm sorry. People get mad at us and got mad at us when we tried to give him credit.
And by the way, he's not alone. Bernie Sanders believes this and a lot of others in the House and in the Senate, but Rand Paul has become the leader on this issue while he's running for president in the Republican primary. And frankly, if he took that position to most primary states, he would probably lose. I'd put it up for a vote. Would probably lose the vote. Hey, let's go down to North Charleston, South Carolina. Hello, Ike. How you doing? I came all the way back from Cuba to say hello to you, Ike.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I'm still trying to get my head around how they're teaching salmon to smoke weed in Colorado.
Oh, we have to do a field trip, Ike. We got to go out there, right?
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a road trip. Okay, well, I'm just going to use what the right wing was saying, and those of us that were against not only the Patriot Act, but against going to Iraq, I'm going to use the line the Republicans used on us to pass that crap in the first place. You know what? If you ain't got nothing to hide, you ain't got nothing to worry about.
Oh, I know.
You know what?
Yeah.
And by the way, you know what? If you want to talk about the Fourth Amendment, let's go ahead and get the rest of it on the table, like indiscriminate drug testing, being guilty, and you have to prove yourself innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about surveillance by local police and these tag readers and tracking you all over town. Let's talk about it. But you know what? When it comes right down to it, whether it's the DEA, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, or any of the other 15,000 police apparatus and these type of apparatus that the government has, if they lose this tool, trust me, they got 10 more in the wings that they're ready to open up on us anyway.
Well, sadly, I think that's the case. But no, you make a good point as always. It's not just the NSA. There are all these other ways that the government is spying on us. You didn't even mention drones, Ike.
Yeah, right.
But still, the point here is, and the focus is on NSA only because the authority that they've been using under the Patriot Act expires again this Sunday at midnight. And what are we going to do about it? 866-55-PRESS is, of course, the number. Let's say hello to maybe Vi, right? Vi.
What's up, Vi?
In Donison, Michigan. Hello, Vi.
Hi. I'm
Hi.
from Missouri.
Missouri, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let me paraphrase Thomas Jefferson. If you're willing to give up your freedom and for safety, before long you'll have neither, and you don't deserve.
Absolutely right. You know what? I wish I could remember. You're close. I wish I could remember the exact quote, but I think those who would sacrifice their privacy for something don't deserve either. But anyhow, that's right. We got to remember that, right? And fight for our basic freedoms and not let the government just take it away for any reason whatsoever, not even for the so-called war on terror. Do you think so? I guess the point is, we should all be aware of this. What's going on, and make our voices heard to the members of the Senate and have them stand strong for that. You got it, Peter?
Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. That's the quote.
All right.
There you go.
Very good. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. David Jackson joins us in our next segment. Just want to touch briefly on the story that broke overnight with FIFA.
Oh, my God. This is crazy.
Which is I forget what the FIFA stands for, but it's the International Soccer Federation.
Soccer, yeah.
Right. We call it soccer. They call it foosball. Right.
Football, yeah.
Where the indictments are going to be read this morning, revealed and read this morning in Brooklyn. The United States filing charges against, as I understand it, several officials of the World Soccer Federation, FIFA, who are meeting in Switzerland. They have already been rounded up and arrested at some fancy resort in Switzerland, and they're going to be extradited to the United States to stand trial for all kinds of corruption charges, bribes and paybacks, and all kinds of stuff that goes back to the last World Cup, I think it is. So
the photos coming out of this, by the way, are remarkable because it is a very swanky, fancy hotel, and they've put up the white sheets as they march to the car, so you can't see who's actually being brought into the car. But, yeah, the U.S. Justice Department announced these corruption charges against the senior officials at FIFA. Up to 14 people total were expected to be charged. As of now, I don't think they've hit 14. But they've been at the center of this corruption investigation for years and years and years. So, Yeah, so 6 have been arrested already during an overnight raid on corruption charges. And this all goes back to, like you said, the 2010 World Cup is where this all started. So the Swiss officials have opened criminal proceedings against 10 people now on suspicion of criminal mismanagement and of money laundering in connection with the allocation of the 2018.
Charged with, just reading from Huffington Post, charged with racketeering, bribery, money laundering, and fraud. 4 of those accused have already pleaded guilty and are likely to be cooperating. We're going to hear a lot more about this today, and already here's Kenny Lane on ESPN when they got the word. Again, it's one of those things. When I got up this morning and picked up my phone, there was the headline from the New York Times, so it happened overnight. ESPN was on it right away.
As many as 10 high-level FIFA executives will be arrested Wednesday. Tax evasion, racketeering, money laundering are among the charges in the investigation that covers everything from bids for World Cups to marketing and broadcast deals. ABC News reports the allegations are connected to the 2022 World Cup. According to the New York Times, FIFA president Sepp Blatter is not expected to be arrested. The indictments are to be unsealed in Brooklyn on Wednesday. Alleged soccer corruption going to be the news all day.
All right.
We've heard a lot about...
First the NFA, now FIFA.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about the... FIFA for a long, long time from some of our sports reporters. Travis Waldron and Sidney Bourne have talked about this over and over again. They've got real problems with FIFA. FIFA's got a really, really, really bad reputation, and this certainly is not going to help.
More about that later today. We'll talk more about it tomorrow, too. Maybe we can get Travis or Cindy in. David Jackson, standing at the White House, ready to give us the latest on President Obama's plans for today and the issues that they are dealing with. David Jackson covers the White House for USA Today. Coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, Wednesday, May 27. How about it? President Obama on the road today down to Miami, and a lot on his plate, as we discovered yesterday at the briefing. David Jackson, covering the White House for USA Today, standing by early this morning. Hello, David.
Hello, Bill.
President Obama, after the briefing, got a little bit of bad news on the immigration front, huh? Yeah.
Very much so. And it's very, very complicated because there's a lot of legal maneuvering going on, but basically an appeals court in New Orleans refused to let the administration go forward with its immigration actions as long as the lawsuit is pending. So basically what this means is that the idea that we have hundreds of thousands and maybe millions of people who might be given legal status. That's going to be put on hold for months and perhaps even for years. It may not even go into effect during the Obama presidency at this point.
Right. So an earlier court had put a stay on the president's executive action. The administration wanted to lift the stay, and this judge said, no, we're going to leave the stay in place. This is just one of several executive actions, right, that the president signed?
Regarding immigration?
On immigration? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then there's several this is the biggest lawsuit because it involves 25 states and 25 Republican states, I might add.
Yeah.
There's some other legal actions around the country. I mean, all this is going to wind up in the lap of the Supreme Court. It's just a question of when and how it gets there.
And I guess it really shows that ultimately, and even the White House has been saying this, the way to resolve this is through legislation.
Yeah, very much so, although given the fact they can't even pass the NSA surveillance bill and the free trade hang-ups, I just don't see any immigration bill going through, especially with the election now less than a year and a half away. I don't think we're going to be seeing that.
Yeah. I was going to go to NSA next. That's the one the president talked about yesterday, and that's the most immediate goal and challenge, I guess.
Yes, basically the old Patriot Act, it expires on midnight Sunday, so basically an awful lot of surveillance tools that the National Security Agency uses will be illegal will definitely be illegal at that point. They won't have the authority to do them. So there's some concern in the intelligence agency that could be some breakdowns, and they want something done by midnight on Sunday. The House has passed a rule that kind of cuts back on some NSA authority. The Senate is still talking about it. They're in recess now, but I guess there's talk about bringing them back and trying to do something before that.
Yeah, the
Sunday
latest we've heard is that they're going to reconvene Sunday at 4:00. With the deadline at midnight, right? Yeah, so they give themselves 8 hours, right, to work a miracle.
Well, if they pass the House bill, it's done. But somehow I have a feeling it's not going to be that simple. It doesn't sound like a lot of time, does it?
It has passed the House, but it does. It's not a lot of time. You know, with this Congress, maybe the less time they have, the more they get done.
Maybe so. Well, McConnell was supposed to be at a big Republican fundraiser in Kentucky. I thought that was on Saturday. He canceled out, saying that he was going to have some Senate work to do. So, but you may well be right. They may wait to the last minute on the old theory that you give them a specific deadline, and that's how you get things done.
Do you buy the line that we were told yesterday that there is no Plan B, that the administration does not have like a secret plan to some way to keep this program going if it expires?
I find it hard to believe. I don't quite understand why they're being. I guess they're being that vocal and trying to put pressure on the Senate, but I find it very hard to believe because I know, Jim Clapper and company are going to be jumping up and down if Monday rolls around. They don't have any legal authority. God knows he's already in a little bit of trouble with Congress over these things. I don't think he wants to. To try to go forward without some kind of legal authorization. So I can't help but think that they'll have something in mind come Monday should we not have any kind of legal authority.
Now, the other little awkward moment Sunday when We saw this play out in the briefing yesterday when Secretary of Defense Ash Carter said that the Iraqi military lacked the will to fight, and Josh Earnest said yesterday, well, these people, we still think this is the way to go. The people there happen to have the ones that didn't have the will to fight hadn't been trained yet, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess that was their line. They need better training. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, well, they have the training and the equipment, but I'm sorry. They had the equipment, but they didn't have the will to fight, or they hadn't been trained yet. If they hadn't been trained yet, what the hell were they doing there with all this equipment? I
don't know. I mean, when I think of Josh, I think of Mike Kinsley's old line that the gaffe is telling the truth in Washington. That's. For rightly or wrongly, what Carter said reflects the president's own view. Is the Iraqis just haven't been willing to stand up for themselves, and Carter just made it public. It's kind of embarrassing for the White House, and the Iraqis are upset about it, but just something we're going to have to live with and move forward with.
Yeah, it's not the first time that one of the defense secretaries of President Obama has kind of gone in a different direction, right?
Exactly. Greg Jaffe had a nice story in the Washington Post about that. Yeah, he's had a few problems with the defense secretaries. Of course, mostly with his first two, Gates and Panetta, the problems were after they left office and wrote their books. Now his problem with Carter is contemporaneous, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, it's been an interesting relationship there.
But it's critical because the Iraqi military, I mean, we're counting on that. That's the president's strategy. We do the airstrikes and they take care of the ground war.
Right. And you notice that during the meeting with the NATO secretary yesterday, President Obama talked about challenges down south. He didn't specifically mention the Islamic State that I recall, but he said they may look at redeploying certain assets down there. And I'm sure that plays into this as well, as the U.S. may have to reevaluate its own posture if the Iraqis can't do a better job.
All right. And quickly, President goes on the road today to Miami. Why?
Well, basically, it's because the political fundraising. He's got two fundraisers tonight in Miami. The bad news is, as I'm told, he won't be talking about Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio. The ostensible reason for the trip is tomorrow morning he's getting his annual briefing at the National Hurricane Center.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Oh, right.
So
Sure.
We're getting ready for hurricane season, so he wanted to go on site and wanted to see what they do down there in Miami. So he's going to get a tour of the building and get a briefing and basically issue his annual warning about hurricanes.
But David, Miami's awfully close to Miami. I'm wondering if he's going to jump down to Havana and see Raul.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was a rumor, and also a rumor would he go to Texas to examine the flooding. I don't think either one of them is true. We'll see, but I don't think he'll pop up in Havana anytime soon. I'm looking for that in December of 2016. That's not
right. Farewell tour. All right.
Exactly.
Thanks, David. Talk to you later. All right.
Thank you, Bill.
David Jackson at the.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, we're going to take a look at the situation. Can we really count on the Iraqi military to do the job against ISIS? Are we going to end up having to send in American ground troops? And then we'll get the latest, what's really behind this court decision yesterday, a setback for President Obama on immigration and his executive order. All of that coming up. Hour number 2 of the Bill Press Show. Hang in there.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Wednesday, how about it? Wednesday, May 27. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, TawkrTV. Good to see you this Wednesday morning. Thank you for joining us, and get ready to join the conversation by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. President Obama on his way to Miami today. He'll do a couple of fundraisers for the Democratic National Committee. And while he's down there, he'll be talking about immigration after yesterday's court ruling against one of his executive orders. He'll also be talking about the economy. He's in Miami. It's only less than an hour flight from Miami to Havana, but nobody expects him to take a little hop down to Cuba. Not today, at any rate. Here in Washington, a lot of excitement over the fact that the authority for NSA to check your phone calls and mine, that authority under the Patriot Act expires this Sunday at midnight. So the Senate is reconvening at 4 o'clock on Sunday, giving themselves 8 hours to fix it. I hope they fail, frankly, because I agree with Rand Paul that the NSA has no business spying on your phone calls and mine. Let them spy on people they suspect of terrorists and leave all the rest of us alone. Bernie Sanders is in big rally up in Burlington, Vermont yesterday. Bernie Sanders looking good, and he makes it clear, he says, he's not running against Hillary Clinton. He's running against Wall Street. He's running against the oligarchy. He is running for middle-class Americans. Go, Bernie, go. And now we have to watch Rick Santorum and George Pataki jump in. Why? They know they're not going to win. Don't they have something better to do? Get a job. Hey, thanks for joining us today, and look forward to hearing from you. Good to have you with us on Wednesday, May 27.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people had lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough, they adapt, but only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yep. We've finally maybe cleaned up a little bit the NFL. Now we've got FIFA to worry about. Soccer, corruption in professional soccer is the latest scandal to hit the sports world. Hello, everybody. It's the Bill Press Show here on Wednesday, May 27. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. Rolling into hour number 2 here. Good to have you with us on your local progressive talk radio station all across this country, coast to coast. And good to be with you coast to coast also on Free Speech TV. Worldwide, you can catch us on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Welcome to the program. Lots to talk about this Wednesday morning. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, with the news of the day, and look forward to hearing from you. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, and join the conversation on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy here leading our team this morning.
Hello, Bill.
Always. Hey, good morning.
Here we are.
Yeah, it's a big news day when the entire team shows up, including Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
To take your calls, 866-55-PRESS again is the number. And if you're watching us on Free Speech TV or TawkrTV, that's thanks to the good work of videographer Cyprian Bolding. And we welcome to the program. We wanted to talk. We've heard a lot of comments in the last couple of days about, once again, are we going to be able to depend on the Iraqi military or not to do the job against ISIS? Julian Pecquet covers those issues for the great website Al Monitor called The Pulse of the Middle East. Joining us in studio this morning. Hello, Julian. Good to see you.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey. Thanks for coming in.
We have to mention on the political front, big news yesterday. Our friend Bernie Sanders, who told us a month or so ago, yes, he was going to run. Yesterday, he made the obligatory great big, Hillary Clinton hasn't done this yet, have a great big rally with all of his supporters in his hometown of Burlington, Vermont, where he was once mayor of Burlington. That's where he started his political career. He was in good form with, I think, a very strong message. He said he's not going to run. He's not running against Hillary Clinton. He's running against Wall Street. And he said it's time to take this country back from the billionaires.
We stand here and say loudly and clearly, enough is enough. This great nation and its government belong to all of the people and not to a handful of billionaires.
Yep, he's going to shake it up. He'll be out there in all the debates and raising the issues, fighting for the middle class. Look, definitely a long shot, but it's going to make it a lot more interesting. He's going to be talking about the issues that you and I care about. That's for sure. So Julian's going to be talking about the Middle East with us for this first half hour. Rebecca Sinderbrand from the Washington Post will be along a little bit later, and we'll cover with her the entire political landscape. But first, Peter with the big headlines of the day.
Oh, yes, all the big stories making news this morning. All right, so I don't love this story, but I'm going to put it out there because it's a story about Felix Kiprono. He lives in Nairobi in Kenya, and he has asked for Malia Obama's hand in marriage. Now, Malia Obama is 16 years old. Felix Kiprono says that he wants to marry her so badly that he is willing to pay 50 cows, 70 sheep, and 30 goats in order to fulfill his dream of marrying the first daughter. No comment yet from the White House, but I can imagine that this is going to be a no.
It's too bad we don't have a White House briefing today because I could ask that question.
Ask about that, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
First you would have to go to the president and get the president's permission. Right?
Yeah, right. Only if you're a traditionalist, right? To ask permission to wed.
And you have to, assess the livestock, see what the worth
That's
really
right. You don't want to get, if you're going to get 50 cows, you want to make sure they're all 50 of them are good cows, right? It's still not okay to eat at Taco Bell and Pizza Hut, although you can maybe feel a little bit better about it because yesterday they announced they're getting rid of artificial colors and flavors, and they're going to try and make things a little less processed. For example, Taco Bell, when you buy their ground beef tacos, has something in there called black pepper flavor. They're going to get rid of black pepper flavor. They're going to actually use, black pepper. They also use colors and dyes in their food. They use a yellow number 6 in their nacho cheese. They use a blue number 1 in their avocado ranch dressing. They're going to get rid of all of that stuff and go back to natural colors.
Last night I had the opportunity, Julian, to interview Nora Pouillon, who is the wonderful chef and the head of, who founded Restaurant Nora here in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been there. She has a new book out. It is the first certified organic restaurant in the country. And we were talking about this, and she was saying, if you knew what I knew about what goes into food, she said you would never go out to restaurants. Basically.
I don't want to know what she knows about food. That's terrifying. That's that's terrifying. And the NBA playoffs continue, and congratulations to LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. My goodness, a complete sweep of the Atlanta Hawks, and it was not close last night. 118-88 was the final score there. Atlanta never really had a chance against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They will go on. They will face either the Golden State Warriors or the Houston Rockets. Right now, the Warriors leading that series 3-1. But amazing for LeBron James. This is his 5th straight NBA Finals that he's been in.
Yeah.
Amazing with 3 different teams.
Thank you, Peter.
You got it.
13 minutes now after the hour. Yes, indeed, the issue that dominated the briefing yesterday, do we still have confidence in the Iraqi military? That confidence was shaken a little bit last week when ISIS was able to move and retake Ramadi, basically. And Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter Sunday on CNN's State of the Union was asked, well, kind of what went wrong? We had the Iraqi military there, and weren't they supposed to handle this situation on their own? Here was Defense Secretary Carter's response.
What apparently happened was that the Iraqi forces just showed no will to fight. They were not outnumbered. In fact, they vastly outnumbered the opposing force, and yet they failed to fight. They withdrew from the site, and that says to me, and I think to most of us, that we have an issue with the will of the Iraqis to fight ISIL and defend themselves.
Lacking the will to fight. That's a pretty damning indictment, Julian. So can we really count on these guys?
Well, it is a damning indictment, and, certainly the Iraqis have not taken it sitting down, and they're pretty furious at these comments, and they have pushed back, basically saying that They were actually outnumbered. I mean, this fight has been going on for 18 months, and so this was one huge attack by the ISIS fighters. They used equipment from the U.S. that they'd taken over several months. Back in June when they took Mosul, they up-armored all these Humvees, turned them into these giant bombs. We were told that there were at least 10 Oklahoma City bombing type, each one of these things was packed with enough explosives to create another Oklahoma City, basically. They threw all these things into the fight. They took down entire blocks of the city and were able to basically go in through that route. And then, the story that the Iraqis have been telling reporters in the region is that on top of that, the Iraqi army was fighting back. They thought they had their backs covered. And all of a sudden, ISIS apparently, activated all these sleeper cells, and so these army guys were hit in the back when they weren't expecting it at all. So, there's been a lot of back and forth, but, I think it's important to point out that the comments the Secretary of Defense made were in keeping with what we've heard from the administration. I mean, this isn't something that Ash Carter just pulled out of a hat, and Obama in his interview at The Atlantic said much the same thing. We can't be fighting the Iraqis fight. So
no, in fact, the whole strategy is we'll do the airstrikes, but you've got to take care of the ground war, right? Because we're not going to send in. Some people want to send in troops, but that's not the president's plan. That we're counting on, depending on the Iraqi military, retrained and rearmed, right? So yesterday, the inevitable question came up at the White House briefing for Josh Earnest. Do we still have confidence in the Iraqi military? And Josh said, no, absolutely. Strategy, we still believe in it. The only thing that went wrong here was the guys that ran away had not been trained.
Right.
Well, my question is, if they had the equipment and they're on the site, and what were they doing there if they hadn't been trained, right? What are we doing sending out people with no training with our equipment?
Right. Well, I mean, they've been in that area for a long time. And what he's talking about is that there is a new program to train and equip, and it's just getting started now. And so those people haven't been trained and equipped. But, you make a good point, and the Iraqis have made exactly the same point, because now they're sending in the Shia militias, the ones backed by Iran, into the fight to retake Ramadi, because this is a huge black eye, for Abadi, for the prime minister. And they're in a huge rush to take back Ramadi, obviously, and make things look all good again. And, they pointed out that these guys that you say you haven't trained, they're actually the people we have been training since 2003. I mean, that's the Iraqi army that we have in place right now. Sure, the units aren't the ones currently being trained, maybe, but at the end of the day, this is the army that the United States has funded, has trained, has equipped for the past decade. So, from the Iraqis' perspective, to say that the United States had no hand in training them is a little...
Right. I mean, you're into this every day, and so I recognize that I'm sort of maybe approaching this a little simplistically, but, I mean, what I see is a pattern. We send these arms over there, right? All this equipment, we give it to the Iraqi military. They come up against ISIS, and they turn and run, and ISIS gets the equipment. It happened, a year ago or so, and now it's happened again. We are arming ISIS.
Right. I mean, it's important to point out that the attack was successful because they had this American equipment. They up-armored it. They turned it into these mobile bombs. Right. And, that is a big concern. And now what we're seeing, by the end of next month, they're supposed to get these new anti-tank weapons, these super great anti-tank weapons that are going to be useful in blowing up these up-armored Humvees, these bulldozers, American bulldozers that have been... And of course the question now is, well, what if they grab these anti-tank weapons? Then what? So there's this escalation of weaponry, almost by default, because as they get better American equipment, then we have to give the Iraqis even... stronger equipment. And when does it end is a fair point.
It seems to me we should at least make ISIS pay for our equipment. I mean, if we're giving them all this stuff for nothing, I mean, Jesus. Well, by the way, so the strategy was, okay, we'll do the airstrikes, but we're not going to send in any ground troops because we're going to count on the retrained Iraqi military under the new prime minister and the new Iraqi government. And also we're going to count on the moderate Syrian rebels retrained, trained and armed. Where are the moderate Syrian rebels? Do they exist? Have we found them and have we started training them?
We've started training them.
Really? Where?
Yeah, I believe in Jordan we've started, and my understanding is that the program...
I haven't heard anything about them for a long time.
Well, it's very low-key. There are not many. It takes a very long time to vet them. There are a lot of congressional, requirements, restrictions on how you choose these guys, what their record is, not only in terms of affiliations with extremist groups, but also, were they involved in human rights abuses? So there's a very stringent vetting process. And but it has started. It's a slow trickle. I think it was 90 at last count. I mean,
90?
I think that's right. I mean, it's starting off the ground, and there's supposed to be another component in Turkey, and my understanding is that's still on hold for different reasons. So, I mean, we've been talking about this for 2 years. It's going to be a slow process, and of course, a lot of people think it's too late, basically. I mean, Syria now, it's Assad versus ISIS, and you have to pick your bad guy. So, a lot of people are making that comment.
2 years, and we have 90 being trained. This, I'm telling you, this is a disaster.
That's staggering.
It is a disaster.
Well, the plan is to have 5,000,
I know.
But
I remember that number, 5,000.
Yeah. It's going to take a while to get there. Yeah.
A long way to go.
We can still get there.
You could round up 90 people on the Washington Mall this afternoon and do a better job than that. Then the other question is, there are voices that are being heard on the Republican side, but louder and louder about, no, we got to really bite the bullet and send American ground troops to Iraq. Is that likely to happen? Julian Pecquet here from Our Monitor. We'll get into that question when we come back here on this Wednesday edition of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, to really keep on top of and get in depth in what's happening in the Middle East, go to almonitor.com. That's al-monitor.com. Julian Pecquet is Congressional Correspondent for Al Monitor here in the studio with us. So, Bill Kristol, Weekly Standard, echoing something that John McCain has been saying for a long time, Julian, that we need to, the only answer is here, we're going to have to just bite the bullet and send in American troops. That likely to happen? To fight ISIL, or ISIS, I usually say. Go ahead.
Listen, I don't see it happening. Ash Carter, when he made his statement, there was another half to that statement that didn't get as much attention, where he was basically saying, no, we're not rethinking, as of now, the strategy of not, having more American troops in a ground control situation. So what's happening here is, they say that defeats are, victories have many fathers and defeats basically don't have any. Nobody wants to. Yeah. And so everybody's sort of pointing the finger at everybody else. And I think it's important to realize that from the U.S. perspective, from the defense secretary's perspective, what he's saying, putting the onus on the Iraqis, is also a way of saying, we don't need to be adding U.S. troops because as long as the Iraqis don't fight, it's kind of pointless. This is coming in the context of a lot of calls, not only from Capitol Hill Republicans, but also from a lot of experts, frankly, who are saying, and from the Iraqis themselves from some perspective, to some extent, we need more U.S. Troops on the ground, not to fight the war, but two things, basically. One, 75% of the airstrikes that the American planes go out and then come back to base with their bomb load intact because they haven't dropped them. And part of it is because we have very stringent rules of engagement in this conflict, because of all the past horrors in Afghanistan and Iraq. Now they're very, very wary of bombing civilians by accident. So if there's any question at all that you're going to hit civilians and kill them by accident, you have to go back to base. And what a lot of the experts are saying is, well, that's all fine, but unless you have American ground controllers embedded at the unit level with the Iraqis near the front lines, so you can't tell that. You can't tell that from an airplane.
So that's the kind of work that the Americans would be doing were we to go back in.
Right.
Very complicated situation. You shed a lot of light on it, and we thank you, Julian Pecquet, almonitor.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
You got it 33 minutes after the hour, Wednesday, May 27, The Bill Press Show, coming to you live all on your local progressive talk radio station, nationwide, coming to you live on Free Speech TV, nationwide as well, and worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Haven't heard a lot about immigration lately, but it came back in the news late yesterday afternoon when a U.S. Court of Appeals down in New Orleans gave the president a setback. The White House had been seeking, asking the court to lift a stay that had been placed on the president's one of the president's executive orders on immigration. That stay had been placed on there by another court, and the court yesterday, ruling 2-1, denied the White House request. Where does this leave us now with immigration reform? Cesar Vargas, good friend of a program, is co-director of the Dream Action Coalition and joins us on our newsline this morning. Hello, Cesar. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bill. How's it going?
Good to have you with us. How big a setback is this for immigration reform in general and for the president?
No, it's definitely a big setback. I think most important because I guess the politics is important, and the president obviously wants to have his immigration programs implemented before he leaves office. But it's mostly impacts the families and people who would have qualified for this type of deportation relief. And for example, my mother. My 70-year-old mother would have been able to apply this month if it wasn't for this setback. So, for us, it's a major setback personally because, I think that was an opportunity for my mom to want, to truly be closer to be part of this country. But, I think for us is we're going to continue to really, push this fight in the courts because, we know that the law is on our side. We know the Constitution's on our side. It's just a political lawsuit that Republicans in many Republican-led states kind of initiated. So we're confident in the law.
Yeah, these were 25 states, 25 attorneys general in 25 red states that filed this lawsuit against the president's executive order. Let's step back a little bit. Exactly what would this executive order signed by the president, if it were allowed to go forward, what would it do?
Well, in very simple terms, it would have provided many people who have children who are U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents with literally the opportunity to be with their families. They would no longer have to fear deportation, and they would be allowed to obtain work authorization. They would allow them to further pay taxes and come out of the shadows. And I think it's a very simple concept that it has been around for over 50 years, has been, issued by both Republican and Democrat presidents. But now all of a sudden it's a big deal by the Republican-led Tea Party Congress. So, it's a major issue of how Republicans are literally politicizing something that has been done by both parties throughout the 50 years. But, I think most importantly, it really is a setback of how many people were counting on this to really, be together with their families.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to forget when we talk about this issue about And that's why that's a very important point you make about the families and the people who are really impacted by this, right? It's, politicians can debate it in Washington, but there are real people that are suffering every day because of this, and families being broken up every day because of this. And Cesar, doesn't it show that really, the way to resolve this, the best way to resolve this is through comprehensive immigration reform in the Congress?
Absolutely. Ultimately, we want to make sure that we have a permanent legislative solution to all this issue. Ideally for us, that is the solution. And, we wouldn't want executive action for the president to have taken. But the reality is that we have a broken Congress. We have a Republican leadership who refuses to stand up to the Tea Party, like Steve King, Mo Brooks from Alabama. So I think for us, it was about the president taking action. And unfortunately, the president also didn't take it didn't go as far as he could. He limited himself more on political limit than on a legal limit. And he knew, we told the White House that they were going to get sued probably by the Republicans, and they could have done something even bigger to demonstrate to the American people, especially the Latino electorate, that he was serious on leadership. But, here we are, in 2015, and, we're fighting in courts. But the president can still do a lot more that has statutory basis on what he could do. So for us, we're just calling on the president to take lead and to really stand up to this Republican, obstructionist that we're seeing not just in Congress but across the country.
Well, that's interesting because the Republicans, of course, are suing the president and attacking him from the right, saying that he's done too much, exercised too much authority on immigration. I hear you saying that he could have and should have done a lot more than he did.
Oh, absolutely. And the White House came out last time saying that the president did all that he could. Josh Earnest said, well, the president is confident that he did all he could by the lawyers. But the reality is that he didn't. And for us, it was not so much of like, Mr. President, just do whatever you need to do. It was like, Mr. President, you know that there is an obstruction in Congress. Republicans don't want to work with you on immigration. You might as well go bold and big. And unfortunately, the president didn't go. He could still allow many talented dreamers to serve in the military, to serve the country that we call home. And myself, one of my dreams was to be a military lawyer and actually serve my country. This country has given me so much. I want to be able to serve my country. And the president, as commander-in-chief, has that power. He hasn't exercised it. So, I think it's really about a matter that decisive action is equally as important in the theater of war, but it's very, very important in the theater of politics to demonstrate leadership. And I think the president could definitely do more to definitely show Republicans that he's not willing to back down and fight for communities and fight for Americans when Congress has done nothing, not just on immigration and education and healthcare and so on.
Co-director of the Dream Action Coalition, Cesar Vargas, our guest here on the Bill Press Show at this moment. Their website is dreamactioncoalition.org. I have it down as drmactioncoalition.org. Is that correct, Cesar?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about, to what extent do you think is immigration reform going to be an issue in the 2016 election?
It's going to be a central issue, just as it was in 2012. We already seen Republican candidates tripping up, like Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, kind of both of them already saying that they will keep the president's executive action in place until they pass immigration reform. But on the other side of the spectrum, we see Hillary Clinton talking about how she's going to do more than the president, right? And I think that goes to show you how uncomfortable the White House has been on their limit. So it's definitely going to be a central issue, as well as more candidates like Governor O'Malley jump into the race, who has a better record than Hillary Clinton on the issue. And Republicans are just going to keep tripping up because they know that immigration is going to be something that they need to solve. And their party in Congress has done nothing. So, the Latino electorate cares about many other issues. But when it comes to, like, at least for my family, when it comes to this issue, if Republicans are fighting to deport my 7-year-old mother, I can bet you that my citizen siblings are definitely not going to support them. So, I think it's very central how people's attitudes are towards the 2016 candidates, especially when they stand on immigration.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Marco Rubio, and I wanted to ask you particularly about him because I find it puzzling that here is this young Latino, everybody says is a Cuban American, that he's the hope for the Republican Party because he can appeal to the Latino community, and yet here's a guy that he was part of the group that wrote the comprehensive immigration reform in the Senate, and then he changed his mind and opposed it. So, I mean, he's on the wrong side of this issue. What's his appeal then? Do you think he still has any appeal among the Latino community?
There's definitely appeal for his story, how he came up, and he comes from a modest background, but you know what? I think Latinos now are not going to be fooled just because someone has a Latino last name.
Yeah.
The reality is that he was demonstrating leadership, standing up to the extremists of his party. But unfortunately, he backed down. He quit, and he pretty much just flip-flopped. And, for us, that's not leadership. That's just pandering. That's just weakness. And until Marco Rubio demonstrates that he's willing to once again take leadership and say, you know what, we need executive action because my party has failed to do anything, then he's definitely not going to get the Latino support that he thought he had. And it's unfortunate because, he was a rising star. But at the end, I think he just became like any politician, just crumble in the face of political pressure rather than leadership and managing politics. So for us, I think it's going to be a matter of how he stands up. But at this point, he's definitely failing the test.
Okay, Cesar Vargas, good work, my friend. Thanks so much for all that you're doing here on the Dream Action Coalition. It's only a matter of time. We know this is going to happen, but it's just taking longer to get there than it should. But
we are, and we're not giving up. Thank you, Bill.
We're with you in the fight. Thanks so much, Cesar Vargas. Again, it's Dream Action Coalition, drmactioncoalition.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want. But lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, how about it? 13 minutes now before the top of the hour. Rebecca Sinderbrand is the political news editor for the Washington Post. Joins us at the top of the next hour. Boy, 1, 2, 3, I think 4 new presidential candidates this week.
Yeah.
Full-time job, just keeping track of the new presidential candidates. And we'll assess their strength and the strength of the entire field with Rebecca Sinderbrand at the top of the next hour. Two big news stories I wanted to talk about here before we end up the second hour together this morning. The first one is we have learned that the Senate is coming back in session, this Sunday at 4 p.m. Very unusual for the Senate to be in session on Sunday. And the reason they're doing so is because the provisions of the Patriot Act, under which NSA has been collecting all of the data on your phone calls and my phone calls, Section 215 of the Patriot Act expires at midnight Sunday. And the House has already passed a bill that would allow the NSA to continue to collect this data, but the phone companies would hold on to the data, not NSA. Some little protection there if you want. But the Senate failed to do so, and unless they do so, by midnight Sunday, the whole NSA program will drop, will disappear, will end again. That doesn't mean that NSA can't work with the CIA and the FBI to go after terrorist suspects. They can still do that by going to the FISA court, getting a search warrant, and then listening in on their phone calls, following them around, whatever. But it does mean that the massive bulk collection of every phone call made by every single American in this country, or every person in this country, that would end. And as far as Rand Paul is concerned, and I think he's right, it should end. Here's Rand Paul on the Senate floor just last week or so, May the 20th.
We have to decide as a country whether we value our Bill of Rights, whether we value our privacy, or whether we're willing to give that up to feel safer.
And Rand Paul says, look, they all say, boy, without this, we're going to be really, really in trouble. Rand Paul just says those are the scare tactics and the fear that they always use to get us to give up our liberty.
There comes a time in the history of nations when fear and complacency allow power to accumulate and liberty and privacy to suffer. That time is now, and I will not let the Patriot Act, the most unpatriotic of acts, go unchallenged.
The Patriot Act, the most unpatriotic of acts. And so we'll see what the Senate does. There are really two choices left right now. It's either going to be this, because Mitch McConnell wants to continue the program the way it always was. That's not going to happen. It's either going to be then this middle ground, which we still collect all that data, but let the phone companies keep it, not the NSA, and NSA can go to them when they, if they want some information, or just let the program drop out. Just let it disappear. That's what Rand Paul is suggesting, and I hope that's what happens. It's the one time we want to, personally, it's the one time we want to count on Congress to do nothing, which is what they normally do.
Yeah, right, exactly. So,
okay. So my words to them is, don't make an exception. Just continue to operate the always say. That's the one story. The other story is a big story from the sports world where, after all the problems that we've had with the NFL NFL. Now it's the other kind of football that's in trouble.
Man.
It's the soccer league.
Wow.
FIFA, FIFA, the International Soccer League. And Peter, take it from there.
So, but by the way, just to put this into perspective, FIFA is huge. I mean, we here know and recognize the power of the NFL.
FIFA's a lot bigger, a lot stronger.
The power of FIFA compared to the NFL, I mean, they dwarf.
Well, because think of all the countries that play soccer.
It's huge.
Football.
It's huge.
Their football.
Football, yes, exactly. So this all starts right here at home. The U.S. Justice Department said that they were going to be bringing corruption charges against 14 senior officials at FIFA. The president of FIFA, a man by the name of Sepp Blatter, who has been mentioned in a lot of these corruption stories recently, has not been charged, and there are no plans to charge him. In fact, there is an election on Friday to re-elect him as the head of FIFA. But in Zurich, Swiss authorities conducted an early morning operation. They arrested several top soccer officials to extradite them back here to America to face federal corruption charges. It's a little confusing as to where this all starts.
But the charges are like bribery, racketeering, money laundering, all related to a World Cup game.
Yes, all related to the 2018-2022 World Cups, to look at how the influence was gotten to put them in certain cities, in the way that they worked all together. So it's fascinating at how high up this went, because these are the leading officials, save the president, the leading officials of FIFA who were dealing in this.
Right.
So
those indictments are going to be read out this morning by the U.S. attorney up in Brooklyn. We'll find out a lot more about it, but this has really shaken up the sports world today. And as the world soccer officials gathered in Switzerland at this fancy resort for their annual meeting, or whatever, whether it's annual or whatever, big meeting, the Swiss police rolled in and arrested 14 of them, and they will be extradited, brought back here to the United States to stand trial. Whoa.
It's a bombshell.
All right.
It's a bombshell.
President Obama on the road today. We'll tell you what he's up to when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Two hours, never enough. We need hour number 3, and here we go into hour number 3. If you want to watch it right away, switch over to our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. Otherwise, we'll see you on Free Speech at 5 o'clock Eastern and 4 Central on our delayed broadcast on Free Speech TV. At the top of the next hour, we'll talk the politics of the day with Rebecca Sinderbrand, chief political editor of the Washington Post, and then Debbie Hines, legal analyst and trial lawyer, comes in to talk about the latest agreement between Cleveland and the Department of Justice. Hour number 3 coming up. Stay with us.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
should I get by?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat the threat.
defuse this bomb. Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, President Obama hitting the road today after he gets a daily briefing at the White House. He will be heading for Miami. Down in Miami this evening, he's got late this afternoon and this evening, 2 different fundraisers for the Democratic National Committee. He will be spending the night in Miami, and then tomorrow morning he will be getting a briefing at the National Hurricane Center on what we can expect for this season. Hard to believe we're already going into hurricane season. At any rate,
we are.
No truth to the rumors started in this program that since he's in Miami and so close to Cuba, he might bounce down to Havana to talk to Raul Castro. I'd love to see that happen. But we'll come back with Rebecca Sinderbrand from the Washington Post.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What they told us we were doing was going to rid the state of frivolous lawsuits. So we said, okay, let's vote for this.
Leading up to the 2003 effort in Texas, the insurance companies primarily, but also the medical industry, started this drumbeat. They were alleging that medical malpractice lawsuits were soaring and the cost of healthcare was going way up. They barraged the citizens of Texas with these frightening, scary messages that we were in some sort of crisis. But the reality was that simply wasn't true.
One of the things I think the public doesn't fully understand is that lawsuits are about a lot more than just seeking compensation for an individual plaintiff. By damages to the individual, the jury is sending a message about safety to the doctors, the nurses, the hospital. Please change your ways. Make healthcare safer to protect all of us.
Bill and Kelly Putnam experienced a nightmare scenario. They're in the nursing home with their father. The nurse administers medication improperly. As a result, he started to choke on the medication, and Kelly was forced to provide CPR on her father while staff at the nursing home did nothing.
I was probably 6 inches away from my dad's eyes. He's no longer thrashing, he's no longer moving.
And so they took him to the hospital, they worked on him, cause of death, aspiration. Texas Board of Nursing ruled that the nurse not only did what we said she did, but she also said that the facility had her destroy the medical records for that day and create a new version. I decided to give a lawyer friend a call. I went through probably 10, maybe more. All of them I got the same letter back stating that because of tort reform, we cannot afford to litigate these types of cases.
What the 2003 restrictions did was make it economically unfeasible for most attorneys to take most medical malpractice cases. It's a cynical attempt to make it harder for people to go to court by making it harder for them to get representation.
I do remember when Patricia Whitman first contacted me, because as a cardiologist, I was pretty outraged when I looked at the medical records.
Patricia Whitman visited the emergency room complaining of chest pains. They look at her EKG. Doctor says, no, you've got indigestion, go home. The symptoms persist. Next day she goes in, sees a different physician. She's been having a heart attack.
Anyone looking at this EKG in a patient with chest pain has to consider that that patient is having an acute heart attack until proven otherwise. All of these abnormalities were essentially ignored, and a diagnosis of acid reflux was made in Patricia Whitman's case, and that was the wrong diagnosis.
The doctor came in and he said that I had substantial permanent heart damage and that I was, quote unquote, 100% disabled. Prior to the heart attack, I had a 3,500 square foot home that I took care of, and I was on my feet 8 hours a day going to cosmetology school. Then I would come home and cook for my kids and do whatever else needed to be done. I did it all. After the heart attack, I couldn't keep up with the house. I couldn't pay the mortgage. My life has changed a lot. I will never be able to do what I used to do. I have to depend on 5 heart medications that I have to take every day in order to survive. This is a letter from one attorney. It would be difficult to prove that the ER physician's conduct rose to the level of gross negligence. No attorney would take my case.
Tort reform involved a specific passage of language that said that a simple negligence standard no longer applied to emergency room care in Texas. The new standard was a gross negligence standard called willful and wanton negligence.
You have to prove in court that that doctor saw me walk through the door and said, that's my next victim. And of course that doesn't happen. And so people like Patricia Whitman, who find themselves in the emergency room and are misdiagnosed or harmed, face almost no ability for accountability. If you look back and you break down the arguments made by the insurance companies and medical industry about the cost, quality, access of healthcare in Texas, by every metric, we're worse off today than we were 10 years ago. It has made life better and easier for a small group of corporate interests at the expense of the rest of us.
These corporations, they have no fear because they know that they're not going to be held responsible. It shouldn't be about money. But unfortunately, that's the only language these people speak. That's why we're out protesting.
We will stand out on the street in front of the facility with signs that state what happened and make sure that they understand that we're not going to go away and that what they did was wrong.
We must restore meaningful accountability in this state so that another family does not go through the same nightmare that they've been through. If enough people in the public say enough is enough, then politicians have to think twice. We're never going to be able to compete with the special interests in terms of campaign contributions and money. Where we have to compete with them is in boots on the ground. The more people that rise up and say, we want our rights back, then they have to think about it. And once we've made them think about it, then half the battle is won.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, American football we know is corrupt. Now we know that worldwide football is corrupt as well. They call it football. We call it soccer. And you're going to hear a lot about corruption in the field of soccer today. Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, May 27. This is the Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. How about it? good to be with you on your local progressive talk radio station today. Thank you for joining us in Radio Land. Good to be with you on Free Speech TV as well, and on worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. This is a busy political week. Every time you turn around, there's another presidential candidate. This week and next, it seems, announcing for president for 2016. That keeps people like Rebecca Sinderbrand very, very busy, but she still makes time to come in and see us. She's the political news editor for the Washington Post. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Yeah.
Nice to
You're
see
enjoying
you.
this.
Yeah. I'm getting caffeinated up. We're settling in for 5 announcements probably in the next 10 days.
All right. You know, this is what you live for.
Right. Yeah. This is why they pay us the medium. This is what we do. This is what we do.
And you know our team here, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
Here we go.
Jamie Benson there. You call, you get Jamie. Give him a call at 866-55-PRESS. And you see us on Free Speech or Talker TV. You thank Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, as well. On the soccer, yes, the U.S. Attorney up in Brooklyn is going to unveil today about 47 or so corruption counts, against officials of the Worldwide Soccer Federation known as FIFA, FIFA. Do you know what time that's happening today, Peter?
I don't, no.
The news broke overnight, and apparently these are people who are being accused of bribery, money laundering, racketeering, all related to where the World Cup was held in 2010, I guess. Again, we'll find out more once this happens. But the news broke overnight, and ESPN's Kenny Lane was one of the first ones to report it.
As many as 10 high-level FIFA executives will be arrested Wednesday. Tax evasion, racketeering, money laundering are among the charges in the investigation that covers everything from bids for World Cups to marketing and broadcast deals. ABC News reports the allegations are connected to the 2022 World Cup. According to the New York Times, FIFA President Sepp Blatter is not expected to be arrested. The indictments are to be unsealed in Brooklyn on Wednesday. Alleged soccer corruption going to be the news all day.
Soccer corruption. Who would have thunk?
Soccer may not be our strong suit, but speaking as someone from Brooklyn, I'm pretty sure the attorney's office there knows racketeering, money laundering. They got it down cold. So.
They've been dealing with that for a long time, right? Back to Boss Tweed in New York and racketeering and corruption. So, but we're going to focus on the political front here with Rebecca Sinderbrand. And then Debbie Hines, a trial lawyer and legal analyst, will be joining us a half hour. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. I know this is something you've always wanted, and Father's Day is not too far away. So here's the thing to get somebody who has everything. Sotheby's is auctioning off a lock of hair from Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
How do they know?
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. He died in 1791. His widow gave the hair to the mother of a German composer who was a big fan of Mozart. Your face right now is, no, who in the world would want this?
I don't know.
Who in the world would want this? It was later acquired by another composer who held on to it and is now selling it. They say that the price could go for as much as £12,000, which comes out to be about $18,450 here in America. So if you want to get a lock of Mozart's hair, just go for it. You can get it now. You have something else to say?
Well, I'm just thinking about whenever I get my hair cut, and I see all that hair lying around.
Gold.
Oh, I've been saving it.
It's gold.
Yeah, no, I've been saving it. I'm putting my kids through college on little, locks of Bill Press's hair.
Don't expect me to.
I'll be selling that. On Twitter, are you a verified user? You're verified on Twitter.
I am indeed.
We're not verified on Twitter because we're in these streets. We're keeping it real.
We're outlaws.
We're outlaws. But you can get a little blue check mark that verifies you on Twitter. It says you are who you say you are. So someone took a look at who all is verified on Twitter. Who makes up the verified class? Medium has all the stats up there. Who makes up the most verified users on Twitter? You do,
Yeah,
Rebecca.
yeah,
Journalists
archived,
and
yeah.
media. Journalists and media make it. Look at Bill looking at Twitter.
Well, I don't know whether I'm verified or
You're
not.
not. You're not verified.
Oh, okay.
It's just
How do
existentially
you know I'm not
satisfying
verified?
to know you
Because
exist.
I run the Twitter account.
Oh, okay.
But journalists and media make up 24.6% of all verified users on Twitter, followed by sports figures, teams, or athletes. They're verified on Twitter. And after that is actors or entertainers. Politicians, by the way, are 2.8% of verified users on Twitter.
Huh.
I'd never heard of this before.
Verified on Twitter.
Yeah.
And there's some people we kind of wish they'd verify. You
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Yeah.
Is this a real thing or not? You know,
That's
when
true.
Castro started tweeting.
Right,
I mean,
exactly. You need to say.
know.
So basically, the verification thing on Twitter means that you are who you say you are. So if someone started a Bill Press parody account that started tweeting out right-wing talking points, you can take a look and say, "Oh, that's not a verified account. That's not real."
Mm-hmm.
It's sacrosanct.
We'll have to talk more about this after the program. I'm now feeling vulnerable.
You feel what you feel?
Yes.
All right. I think you're right. Meanwhile, Burger King is rolling out just in time for the summer new menu items. They're testing in Michigan and right just north of us here in Maryland. They are testing out hot dogs and corn dogs. Because nothing sounds more delicious than a fast food hot dog or a corn dog.
Disorienting.
This is Burger King?
Burger King. Burger King. So if you want to go through...
Five Guys have a hot dog.
Five Guys has a hot dog. Five Guys does have a hot dog. So if you're in Michigan or Maryland, certain markets, you could try out these things. The corn dogs will sell for $1.50, and the hot dogs will be sold with ketchup, mustard, onions, and relish for $1.99.
Not bad.
So... there you go.
If you ever went into a Burger King, you would have those choices.
Just in time for summer, Bill.
Right. You got it. Thank you so much. So I want to start, Rebecca.
Speaking of corn dogs and hot dogs, I mean, this is how we. This is the
Segue.
transition. That's the staple of the campaign trail. It powers the candidate.
It's got everything you need.
We're heading to
a little bit
that
of fried,
season.
a little bit of mystery meat.
And a whole lot of Americana.
There you go. That's all it is.
That's why Chris Christie is running.
Democracy on a stick, you know?
Yeah. I want to start with Bernie Sanders. Bernie, yesterday, he told us about a month ago he was going to run. A very low-key kind of announcement here in Washington. Yesterday had the big celebration, big rally up in Burlington, Vermont, where he was once mayor. And he said the magic words.
Today, here in our small state, a state that has led this nation in so many ways, I am proud to announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America.
Yeah, it was a beautiful setting.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
On that lakefront.
Here on the banks of Lake Champlain, with the gorgeous Adirondacks painted on the horizon, I'm here to announce, Bill.
That's passable Flatbush.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Thanks.
Now, clearly, an uphill battle for Bernie, but he says, I'm not running against Hillary Clinton. I'm running against Wall Street. I'm running against the oligarchy. It's a message that resonates with a lot of Democrats, and he'll shake up the race a little bit. Right?
I mean, one of my favorite charts from yesterday was the Fix over the Washington Post, where I work, did this chart where they counted up all the support from some of the other candidates in the race. So they figured out that Bernie Sanders has as much support right now in terms of raw numbers as Kasich and Fiorina and Jindal and Perry combined. He's got a not insignificant amount of support. Does this mean he's going to get anywhere close to the nomination? Not really. But it does mean, he's pulled in a couple of $1 million. There were an estimated 5,000 people at that launch event yesterday. He's polling in the double digits in some polls in some of these early voting states. And so, there is a constituency out there for the Sanders message, definitely.
No. I have to tell you, I was in Cuba last week, and in our group, 30 Americans who were there.
As one does these days, apparently.
Right. There was a young man a student from Oberlin College, right there with his parents, and he was saying that we just got talking politics one day, and he said like his whole crowd of friends at Oberlin just turned off to politics. They weren't even going to vote. They just said, they're all the same and everything. And then suddenly Bernie comes along. And he said, Bernie's our guy. Bernie's our guy. And they've got this whole movement at Oberlin for Bernie Sanders. I mean, he has sort of that Rand Paul almost appeal with young people. I
Right,
think.
and he sat down with some serious strategists ahead of his launch and basically kind of mapped out a possible path for himself, not necessarily to victory, but a path to a legitimate showing. And so he wanted to make sure that he would at least pull in the kind of support that wouldn't, in his words, delegitimize his message. And he figured out that believes he can.
And he's running as a Democrat, and he is running. And he has told me, and he said this on this show, that he would never pull a Ralph Nader. I mean, he's not going to run as an independent and suck votes away from whoever the Democratic candidate is because he doesn't want to help a Republican to win the White House. Now, on the Republican side, big announcement today. He's back.
That's right.
Rick Santorum.
He's back, but we were having this conversation in the office yesterday. He's in most polls right now. Rick Santorum is languishing down there, in asterisk territory and single-digit territory. So he went from single digits to single digits, and in between, he won. Roughly a dozen states. He was the runner-up for the Republican nomination. There was a time when that meant something.
And he won the caucuses, didn't he?
He did indeed win the caucuses.
So I'm
in the
sure
end.
Rick Santorum says, I'm down the asterisks now, but they tried to write me off 4 years ago, and look what happened, right?
Right. And so, but you're looking at where he is right now, and a lot of the dream team that kind of helped him along last time around, they've kind of scattered to the winds. A lot of them who were Huckabee staffers have gone back to Huckabee. Donald Trump has hired some. This is a guy who he even lost the Duggars, it's hard to see.
He's probably glad he lost the Duggars now.
Well, but it's hard to say. It's hard to see a path for him because even the evangelical vote, which has been de-emphasized and not seen as much of a must get this time around, is heavily contested in a way that it wasn't necessarily last time around, and it's hard to see a path.
Huckabee and Ted Cruz and Rick Santorum, all of whom,
and Rick Perry, and even people like that, and Bobby Jindal has made a serious play for the evangelical vote as well. So
Bobby Jindal, forgot all about him. So if we have Santorum today, another loser, George Pataki tomorrow. I mean,
former
seriously.
governor of New York State. My favorite. We had what I consider to be the definitive George Pataki presidential campaign profile by our David Marenthal a couple of weeks ago, in which one of my favorite stats was they opened a museum for George Pataki, in his home state of New York to chronicle his life and show his desk.
The George Pataki Museum,
and it closed 2 years ago because of lack of and they figured the school kids would just look online instead. So, but he's running. He is.
That's sad.
The launch is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so this is the week again. 5 announcements in the next 10 days. We're going to see. This is going to be the parade of people who you didn't know were running for president, but apparently they are.
As if it wasn't sad enough that nobody knows or cares about George Pataki. The fact that it's in the middle of this. 5 big announcements coming out in the next week or so, it's just going to get gobbled up.
Well, the idea that he would open, he was governor for 2 terms, right? I mean,
3, I believe.
Maybe 3.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But still,
who else has an entire museum?
No, BFD, right? And then
in his hometown of Peekskill, that's this is hometown son made good. So.
You're not selling me.
Yeah. I'm not sure he's even selling himself. But it's interesting
but
to
if
see
you
on
know
the
that, knowing
campaign
that, it's no surprise that he would think he's got a chance at running.
This year,
becoming the
a
nomination.
lot of people think they've got a chance. We're going to have more than a dozen candidates on the Republican side by this time next month.
Really and truly, how are the debates going to work? Because we're talking about.
Well,
some people are talking 20 or 21 candidates. So this more conservative numbers say 19. How is it even going to happen for a debate?
Right, and it's interesting the way the RNC has outsourced the selection of the candidates essentially to the networks. Not our problem.
No. That's what I was going to say. Fox, to respond to your question, Fox News has said the very first debate, which is in August,
yes,
that they're going to take only the top 10.
Oh, wow.
Right, but the
they will
it may be more
decide.
than 10 candidates, if there's ties. But yeah, you're going to leave a whole lot of people off the stage. CNN, my former employer, is going to get around this by holding essentially what I'm calling the NIT debate round, where they're going to have, all the people who don't make the first cut, they're going to have, another debate. So they're going to have two sets of debates. But there's a lot of ways you could go with this. But, this is a problem because who do you leave off the stage? And this is a conversation that, has taken place and is going to continue to take place. Do you leave Carly Fiorina, who is drawing pretty significant crowds in Iowa, the only woman in the field? Do you leave her off the stage? Do you leave, John Kasich, governor of Ohio, a key presidential state, someone who's actually doing fairly well? Do you leave him off the stage? How do you decide? So it's tough.
No, you know what? Right. How can they reject Ben Carson? Then they're going to say, look,
that's right.
He's the one African-American and he's not allowed on stage. Carly Fiorina, she's the one woman and you won't allow her on stage?
Pretty much all of them can make a case.
Yes, exactly.
They can make a case.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I love this. The only Indian-American, Bobby Jindal, he's got to be on the stage.
That's right.
22 minutes after the hour, Rebecca Sinderbrand. It's getting fun. You have a comment? Let's hear it. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
They called her Little Sanju. She was born in a village at the foot of the Himalayas, the smallest of 7 brothers and sisters.
My family was very poor. To get by, we raised cows and we made small things for tourists out of bamboo. But we were always hungry, and no matter how hard he tried, my father was always in debt. When I was 11, my father told me I had to go to work making carpets. I had to leave with a man who took me to the carpet factory. The broker who took me away got paid, but they never paid my father anything. I made knots from 4 in the morning until 8 at night. There was never a day off. I was always hungry. I cut my fingers while weaving and had to weave with cut fingers. My hands began to look like my grandmother's. I cried every night. I thought the rest of my life would be only this.
It takes 1 million knots to make one 8x10 rug. In the 1990s, 1 million children were enslaved making carpets in South Asia. Then a hero entered the picture. It was you. If you knew how these carpets were made, you would no longer think they were so beautiful. And if you could choose a better rug, your buying power could end child slavery in the rug industry. From that simple idea, Goodweave was born. Here's how it works. To earn the Goodweave label, companies agreed not to employ children. Goodweave makes sure by conducting surprise inspections. When children are found, Goodweave helps them.
2 years ago, a Goodweave inspector named Grona found me in the factory. When I saw him, I was scared, but Grona put his arm around me and told me it would be okay. Grona took me to Hamro Gar, a home for rescued carpet kids run by Goodweave. I'm the first person in my family to ever go to school.
Today, thousands of children like Sanju have been educated and rescued by Goodweave. And because you chose the Goodweave label, 3/4 of those million children weaving carpets are now free. And Sanju, with Goodweave's support, she's able to attend her village school and live at home where she belongs. Now that's a beautiful rug that tells a beautiful story. Stand with Sanju. Insist on the Goodweave label.
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, Debbie Hines, trial lawyer and legal analyst, comes up next. Rebecca Sinderbrand here. We're talking politics. Rebecca, I know we've got Lindsey Graham, Martin O'Malley on Saturday, Lindsey Graham on Monday, Rick Perry next Wednesday. But I want to ask you about somebody who's already in, Rand Paul. He was on with Morning Joe this morning, okay, talking about who's responsible for ISIS, okay? He doesn't blame President Obama. Listen to whom he blames.
Lindsey Graham would say ISIS exists because of people like Rand Paul, who said, let's not go into Syria. And what do you say to Lindsey?
I would say it's exactly the opposite. ISIS exists and grew stronger because of the hawks in our party who gave arms indiscriminately.
He's blaming Republican hawks like John McCain.
That's right.
For ISIS. Is he running as a Republican or a Democrat?
We actually, Dana Milbank went through and picked out all the lines from his book where if they were disembodied,
I saw that article this morning.
It would read as though that has come from a Democratic candidate. It's fascinating, and it'll be interesting to see how far you get by pushing back against your own party's conventional wisdom, your own party's base beliefs.
Yeah, it scares the hell out of me because I find myself agreeing with Rand Paul on more and more occasions. But anyhow, we're just getting started, Rebecca, so we'll see you many times again. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Good to see you. Thanks
All
for
right,
having me.
Debbie Hines coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, it is Wednesday, May 27. This is The Bill Press Show here in Washington, D.C. That's where we're coming from, reaching out to you on your local progressive talk radio station, coast to coast, and on Free Speech TV. And brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their international president, Leo Gerard, the great men and women of the United Steelworkers under President Leo Gerard, North America's largest industrial union, representing over 1.2 million active and retired members, doing great work to rebuild America's manufacturing base and to save the steel industry here, such as it is. That's just one of the fields that they're involved in. You can find out more about their work across the board at their website, usw.org. Big news out of Cleveland yesterday, where the police chief held a news conference announcing that they had agreed to terms and reached a settlement with the Department of Justice on an investigation of abuse of police authority in that troubled city. Debbie Hines is a trial lawyer, legal analyst, good friend of the program to talk about these issues. Joins us again this morning in studio. Debbie, always good to see you.
Same here.
Interesting that this announcement of the settlement came just a couple of days after a decision by a judge in Cleveland. Once again, a judge holding a white police officer, finding him not guilty of killing at least one of the officers, who fired over 100 shots and killed 2 unarmed black civilians back in 2012. So far as you know that case, I mean, we talked about it yesterday. There were 65 police officers total who ended up chasing these guys. This guy jumps on the hood of their car.
Exactly.
And fires, unloads his gun, reloads, and the judge says, well, that was justified?
And the judge says, oh, I accept what the officer said, Officer Brila, that he was in fear of his life. How are you in fear of your life when you jump out of your car, get on the hood of another car, point your gun downward into shooting into the windshield, reload, and shoot again? But you're in fear.
And you're in fear of your life.
Exactly.
And the judge says something like, well, they might have been still moving or something like that. I mean,
right. And the car was the other thing. The car was stopped, so it was no longer a threat. Yeah. And over the entire 22-mile chase of the car, I'm not saying they should not have stopped earlier, but over the entire 22-mile stretch, there were never any bullets or shots from the car. So the police should have been on notice that maybe they don't have any weapons or guns.
Yeah. They say they mistook the backfiring, right? The car backfired or something and thought they were gunshots.
Yeah, and that's debatable too from other witnesses if that happened. But nonetheless, that had happened, and that was the only thing that they had heard. But the case is really a bad case because what it basically gives is the police carte blanche to engage in excessive force because there were a total of 137 shots that were fired by over 62 police officers, and no one gets convicted, no one gets charged except for this one officer. I mean, if that's not excessive, I don't know what is.
No. So what are the conditions? Are things going to improve because of this settlement, or is this just, kind of paper talk?
Well, hopefully things will improve, but with all these settlements that the Department of Justice enters into with various police departments across the country, they take years. They take years.
They do.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah. So this is not just a 105-page report. This is what you guys should do. It's actually a consent decree. This is what you guys should do. This is a settlement we've reached, so we don't have to sue you, and we're finished and over. I mean, they actually go on for years. I mean, in the other departments, such as New Orleans and other places, they've monitored them for years. So it's not going to be an easy fix. It's not going to be something that is finished and over with in the next 90 days. It's an ongoing process.
What does the city require? What are some of the things the city's required to do?
Well, I think the city's required to do all the things that most police officer departments should be doing across the country. One of the things is de-escalation, training and de-escalation, because when a lot of these police officers, as you know, are going into African-American communities, I mean, they're viewing it as a war zone. And so they're not even trying to de-escalate. They're in battle in warrior mode. And that's really should not be the mode if you're trying to protect and serve. You should not be always going in trying to kill. So that's one of the things, training and de-escalation. One of the other things is they're going to have a diverse commission that's going to be made up of other individuals, not just police officers, but clergy, faith leaders, community leaders, right, to actually have input, which I think that hopefully will go a long way. There are a lot of cases that involve excessive force, unfortunately, that are with people that have mental health issues. And it would be good if the police had some training in that area so that they would know, in addition to de-escalating, that everybody that acts out of order is not doing it to harm the police, but maybe there is some mental health component behind it that they should consider. So that's one of the other things. And of course, what I've said before, that they all need is training, and retraining. And I think one of the other ones that they mentioned, which is really good, is recruitment of officers, because I think it's very important that officers come from the community where they're policing from, because the other element, which is in the report, is racial bias training, to avoid racial bias with police actions. And if police actually can be recruited that come from the communities where they're serving, there will be less of that. But what you have now a lot of times are police that may not even live in the jurisdiction, and they're coming into certain lower socioeconomic communities, mostly minorities, and their mindset, I'm not going to go as far as to say it's fear, but their mindset is warrior mode. Their mindset is not to help and assist. So that's in essence what it is.
Right. Now, so there are about 20-some cities, I think, where the Justice Department has conducted or is conducting these kinds of investigations, right? I mean,
it's a fair amount.
Right. And as you say, it takes a long time in all of them. But no matter, with all the training and everything else, it seems to me, nothing's going to change as long as you've got judges who let the cops off the hook.
And that's the main problem, because even in the Brillo case, there was a civil settlement of $3 million. So the police departments are quite happy to settle the cases, but no one either gets charged, and very rarely does anyone get convicted. And so as long as you do have that, you definitely just perpetrate the what's going on now. You just continue it.
The police officers know, message to them, direct or indirect, is you can use excessive force and get away with it.
And I'm going to get I'm going to get paid leave, either doing paperwork or sitting at home doing nothing, but I'm going to still get paid while all of this investigation is going on. And I think that one of the other things that ultimately needs to happen, even though it will be a fight with the unions, is that they need to have it hit the officer's pocketbook, either through payment somehow of the settlement through their pension funds, or that they would be on unpaid leave. And if everything turns out that they were okay, then they would get back pay, because they would think about it twice. If, in the case of the officer in Tamir Rice's case, if he was home now 5 months without pay, he would have thought a lot, he would have probably acted a lot slower.
I keep bringing up South Carolina because it appears as though the template for doing this the right way, of all places, came from South Carolina with the killing in North Charleston. Police officer shot an unarmed man who was running away from him. That police officer was charged with murder. He was fired. Body cameras immediately issued by the mayor. And it seems like that's the way to get things done. There were no riots. There was really no unrest. There were peaceful protests in the streets. But why is it so hard for other police precincts and other municipalities to see that that's the way that it should go?
And that's where the problem comes in with the police saying that they fear. Once the police raise, I was in fear. Now, in the North Charleston case, there was no way that he could raise it, although I think he probably did try to raise it. But once he did try to raise it. Right. But once they saw the video, they knew that hands down, there's nothing that they can do. But the problem in a lot of the other cases is once the police raise the fear element, it just seems that takes on a whole nother life. But then still bringing it back to the Brillo case, I still just don't see how objectively, subjectively, you're in fear when you're the one that's on the hood of the car shooting into the car.
Right. We still have no decision yet, do we, in the Tamir Rice case?
No, we don't. And I think that's been 5 months and counting. And in those cases, I cannot imagine. Same city, which we know now.
And again, we've seen the video there, and you tell me how that man was, how his life was threatened with a kid with a toy gun.
And what he says is, I didn't know he was 12. I mean, to me, he looked like he was 20. I mean, that's the whole racial component to it. You see a 12-year-old kid, but you're going to see him, in your eyes, you're going to say you thought it was like a 20-year-old man with a gun on a playground. I mean, the first instinct should have been, this is probably a toy gun. This is a playground. Kids and swings.
Well, we'll see how that one falls out. And then, by the way, just one other thing. We will take a break. There's so many of these cases. You mentioned North Charleston. What happened, if anything, to the African-American police officer who was standing by the body when the cop came up, other cop, and dropped his gun?
That's interesting. I actually blogged on that he should also be charged with something. But as far as we know, we haven't heard anything about, him being charged. It looks like no harm, no foul, at least with respect to him.
It's a very, very, very serious problem, and it doesn't look like we're making much headway at all, despite this new settlement in Cleveland. Debbie Hines is here with us to talk about all the ramifications of it nationwide. We haven't even touched on Baltimore yet. We will when we come back, and more. Join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's 12 minutes before the top of the hour with Debbie Hines in studio with us, trial lawyer and legal analyst. You can follow her on Twitter at Legal Speaks. Are you verified on Twitter?
No, not yet. I would love to be.
Neither are we.
Neither are we. We talked about it earlier. The reason I asked
this is going to be Bill's new crusade. I can already tell that this is going to be Bill's new crusade.
I didn't even know you
got
could.
any friends at Twitter?
Well, I didn't know that you could even be verified on Twitter, and Peter has let me out there all these years, unverified.
Yes, sorry.
And I tweet every day from the White House.
You do?
Yeah, and here I am tweeting unverified.
Unverified.
All right.
Tragedy.
Verified or not, at Legal Speaks is how you attract Debbie Hines. What is the latest? By the way, I just one final thing in Cleveland. I noticed, you have to say about Cleveland, the city, the people have responded, I think, very calmly, very appropriately. Yesterday there was a big march, and there were the religious leaders at the head of that march, and what they were just saying is, we need some change. We need some change. You know, no violence, no burning of cars, no nothing.
Right.
But people have got to. It's almost people have got to demand changes, right? I mean, that's where it's got to come from.
Oh, absolutely. And they have to keep, putting their feet down and demanding that change.
And not going to come from the top down. I mean, the people have to be.
No, this is not going to from the top and trickle down. It's not going to work that way. It hasn't worked that way.
Have you represented in your work any police officers?
No.
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 Why is it the police? There's another problem. You alluded to this a little bit earlier, and I picked up on it. The police unions, and look, I'm a union member. I'm a proud union member, and I support the unions 100%. But the police unions, they always rally behind. I've never seen a case where a police union, no matter how obvious the excessive use of force is, a police union to say that police officer did wrong.
Exactly, and that's a problem too. I mean, even to bring up again the North
Charleston
case.
The silent blue line, or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, even with the North Charleston case, I mean, you saw the mayor speak, but you did not see anyone from the police union say that goes against what we are about.
And look at the police union in Staten Island.
Exactly, Eric Garner.
When Mayor de Blasio was critical of the behavior up there, and the police officers, they attacked de Blasio, turned their backs on him at the funerals and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So there's got to be some maybe training and education in that field as well.
Well, I think that what has to happen, and there's a certain attack now on Mayor de Blasio, and that he needs to do something with respect to the Eric Garner case, not wait for the Department of Justice. And he's saying, he's bringing up the thing about the police unions, and someone has to basically take a stand against the police unions too.
Mm-hmm. I saw that somebody is running against the man who led the attacks on de Blasio. There's a police officer running against him for the leadership of the union. That's another way to go. Let's just get some new leadership.
Exactly.
New leadership in these.
Exactly.
Now, Baltimore. What is happening? What's the latest in the Baltimore case, where the attorney up there acted very, very promptly, and I think appropriately.
Yes. So in Baltimore, originally the officer's preliminary hearing would have been set for this week, but procedurally, the prosecutor, Marilyn Mosby, got an indictment against all 6 officers, and so that takes it off the calendar for the preliminary hearing and sets it up for their arraignment, which is going to be on July 2nd.
July 2nd is when the 6 officers are arraigned,
yes,
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Do we know, are any of them cooperating? Are they...
We don't know yet. I mean, it's interesting whether they'll all stick together or if some of the ones that may have lesser involvement, such as the 3 police officers that were on bikes that originally stopped him. They weren't the ones that were in the van as he ended up, injured severely. It'll be interesting if any one of those actually end up cooperating. But then again, it is the police. And they feel probably that if they stick together, that's basically their best defense.
It's worked so far for so many of them. Why stop now?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. I would just hope that someone who saw what was happening and maybe tried, to suggest that maybe we ought to get this guy some help, and they were turned down. That some of them might cooperate. Debbie, I don't know. Sometimes I just get so depressed. Nothing is going to change, but
I think, the thing that I feel is that with everything happening and being brought out in the open now, I really have a sense that things are going to change. Because what we've said in the past, and I've said on your show, I mean, in the African American community, this is nothing new. People have known about killings, these types of excessive force, for decades. It's just that now it's being more broad mainstream. That's what's going to, cause the change. About the change.
All right. If you're an optimist, I'll be an optimist with you. And from your lips to God's ears, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank
all right?
you so much.
Have a great one. We'll see you again soon.
Too.
And I'll be back and wrap things up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, no time for a parting shot. I just want to, as a parting, say how sorry I feel for Pope Francis. He gave an interview yesterday where he said that he hasn't watched television since July 15, 1990.
Oh, man.
Right. He said just doesn't have time for it anymore, so it's not for him. And also he said what he really misses is being able to send out for a pizza.
Oh.
Now, seems to me, if you're in Rome, you ought to be able to send out for a pizza.
Yeah.
Poor guy. I mean, God, his job is bad enough. Not being able to get any pizza. All right, folks, have a great Wednesday. Come back and see us
This
again tomorrow.
is the
We'll be
Bill
looking
Press
for you.
Show.